Hey, I'm here today with my friend Christina McGraw, and she is a counselor, and she's actually an excellent counselor, someone that I've personally talked to about several questions that I've had in regards to how to work with people. But I thought I would sit down today with Christina and we would have a little bit of a conversation around this COVID stuff and kind of the depression and this crazy season that we're in right now. But before we get into something really thick and chewy, Christina says that she has a joke, and I always need some good material for jokes.
All right. Yeah. So this is a good joke. So it's something that you might not totally be used to. But this cabbie pulls up to a building and a guy walks out at the exact same time. He gets in the cab and the cabbie's like, wow, you have perfect timing. You just remind me so much of George Banks. He's like, he was perfect at everything. He knew everything. He knew how to fix everything. He was sociable. He was perfect to his wife. He was the best father ever. He didn't do anything wrong ever. And the passenger said, wow, he sounds like such an amazing guy. You're really lucky to know him. And the cabbie says, oh no, I've never met him. I'm just fortunate enough to be married to his widow.
Okay. I might be able to use that one. You never know.
Right.
It is clean. That's a good joke.
It's clean and funny. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
So, as a counselor, and you and I've talked kind of before this and different times now, in this season that we're in, it's just a strange time. At first, people were full of energy, like, hey, we're going to get through this. Then we didn't get through it, and then the riots happened, and then the political elections happened, and people are just not playing nice in the sandbox. It's a lot of change. It's a lot of change.
Right. And like you said, things that are out of our control. You know, it's not just change of things we're choosing. And that's really hard.
And why is change that's out of our control so hard on people?
Well, because people are afraid of the unknown, you know, so they want to have certainty, like Pastor Zach was talking about last week. And we just can't. You know, the only certainty we have is God. So thankfully, we have our faith to fall on. But people try to control situations to ease their own anxiety and worry about the future. Yet so much of it is out of our control. So we have to do what we can to let it go, because worrying about it doesn't do any good. It just robs us of our joy today.
Right. And yeah, I would say that from my experience, that a lot of people right now are worried. And they're living in fear and anxiety, and this disruption has just gotten long. In fact, a lot of people are isolated now.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you this: how do we stay connected even though we're supposed to stay socially distant from one another?
Right. I mean, thankfully we have technology, you know, even though it's been something that might not be so great in the past, you know, where kids were so addicted to it and stuff, but we can be in touch with people. We can call people, we can FaceTime, we can do Zoom meetings with family or friends. You can play games with people online, you know, just anything you can do. You have to be creative, you know, and totally respect that we need to be distant from people. I mean, COVID's real. You and I know that. And we don't want it spreading to people who are really vulnerable. It's really hard.
So when you're depressed, I've struggled with depression myself. I've been very open with that. And I've got seasonal affects disorder and also some depression stuff. But when you're depressed, I can say firsthand, you don't want to call anyone. So what would you say to someone like me who starts feeling depressed and you're kind of descending into darkness? How would you say, here's one thing that you could do that would help you to make sure that you don't descend into darkness any further? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. You know, because people who are depressed don't feel like doing anything, taking any steps forward. So noticing that and giving yourself self-compassion, you know, like, it's okay, you're feeling a little down, but you can do this, you know, something like that. Just doing something small, you know, if it means getting out of your pajamas and getting dressed, you know, feeding yourself a meal, You don't have to reach out if that's too hard to somebody. It's helpful, but if it feels like too much, that's okay. Do things that you enjoy. Turn off the news.
Right. I actually liked your word self-compassion. I that just kind of resonates with me right now. So
Right, because people tend to beat themselves up when they're depressed, like, oh, you shouldn't be depressed. What's wrong with you? And the thing is it happens. This is a hard time right now, and it's okay to feel those feelings and give yourself compassion and then encourage yourself to do something small.
And I've had to limit the amount of news that I watch because I'm an avid news watcher, reader. I just want to stay current with world events, but sometimes, especially lately, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can take any more news because it kind of takes your energy away.
Right. And it's just running like the same tape over and over, for 24 hours a day. So take a break from it.
So if I know someone who's depressed, how could I reach out to them, or how could I encourage that particular person in one simple, practical way? Like, I'm not a counselor. Like at your level, you're amazing. But so how could I or anyone, how could we reach out to someone who we know is struggling with depression?
Well, letting them know you're thinking of them, and just reaching out, listening to them. Don't talk them out of their feelings, or try to point them towards the sunny side. Just be there for them. Let them know you care. Offer to do something tangible. We can ask how we can help, but oftentimes people who are depressed don't have ideas. So you offer to bring them a meal, offer to help them do one of the tasks that they're having a hard time doing. Suggest maybe therapy or talking to a pastor or their doctor. Just let them know you care and they matter.
That's good advice. One thing that I just drives me crazy is that when people say, oh, you just have to pray more. Well, yeah, like that's a great spiritual answer. And yes, we should pray more, but sometimes it's you heap even more depression on people by saying you're not spiritual enough to overcome this. And
right.
I don't like that at all. I think that's a lot of good intended people have really done even more damage by kind of minimizing someone's feelings.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to the future, a lot of us we're wondering. We don't know what the economy holds. We don't know if we're going to have a job. We don't know, for my friends who own businesses, especially, they're just concerned for their families, their employees, whatever. So what advice do you have for someone to stay optimistic even with such uncertainty in the future?
Well, again, reminding ourselves of what is true today. If you have a home, or if you currently have a job, or if you have options for an income, things like that, you're with your family, you're healthy. Remind yourself of what's actually happening in the present moment without projecting yourself too far in the future, because we don't know what the future holds for any of us, even if we think that we have all the security in the world. And there was something I was going to say and then I totally forgot. But, figure out ways that you could make money. If your job shuts down or whatever happens, think outside the box. There are things out there, and just figure out what you can do without so much focus on what we can't do.
Right. And yeah, that makes sense. Just at church here, we were planning just basically 7 days in advance and then a month, and now we're trying to do a quarter. But in my own life, I think you're right on that, and just being grateful for what I have currently, and not trying to plan out 1, 2, 3 years from now, because my mind has a hard time wrapping itself around, oh, this is what's going to happen in the future, because we just don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
So how about when it comes to parents who are distance learning with their kids? I have only heard a handful of people who said, I love this.
I haven't heard anyone.
I'm trying to work and teach and be a mom or be a dad, and they are struggling. It is so hard. Right. How do we encourage our kids who don't really understand why they can't hang out with their friends or why they can't play sports? What do we say to them?
Well, we have to really acknowledge that this is hard on them. I mean, they're experiencing a lot of things that they're unable to do, and just, don't minimize what they're going through. Back in the 80s, we didn't even get to have a cell phone, anything like that. It's like, this is hard for them. It's a whole different thing than they were thinking their school years were going to be like. So, giving them compassion, focusing on what they can do, and listening to them, acknowledging, yeah, I know this is really hard and I wish things were different. What can I do to help? Do you want to watch a movie or something like that? Or do you want to play a game?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something we can do? And the distance learning, oh, my heart goes out to all the parents, the kids, and the teachers. This is hard. It's really hard, and any kind of routine that people can stick to helps, but you got to motivate kids with rewards. Don't punish them for what they're not doing, motivate them based on what they have done and how they've gotten through other days that were hard, and reward them with a break at some point, or, get this done and then you can have screen time for a few hours or whatever you want,
Right.
You just got to do what you can do.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd encourage parents you'll get through this. This is a rough season, but you'll get through it. So
Right.
one other question I have for you is that many people who are working at home now are finding that they no longer have boundaries between work and home. So
Right.
we're seeing people who are working more than ever. Some people just feel like, oh, I'm going to slip down to my home office, which is a card table and a chair. And they're finding that they don't have much separation between the two. What advice would you give to that person who's like, I just feel like my life is out of control. I'm stuck in my house and I don't know if I'm working or watching TV or eating, or if I should put a suit on or sit here in my, pajamas all day or what?
Well, be really intentional with keeping your office work time as your office work time. Like, try not to plug in too early or stay later, or just because you have time, go do something. Try to be really intentional about keeping those separate. Take breaks, walk away. Don't eat your lunch at your desk. Get dressed as much as possible, don't be working in your pajamas. I mean, you can, but it kind of adds to the depression of it, so get up, get dressed, get yourself ready, try to keep as much routine as possible, but then also be thankful when things come along that you're so thankful you happen to be at home for, like if a kid needs something or whatever.
Right. So my last just general softball question to you is this. What one piece of advice or word of encouragement would you give to someone who's watching this with us now, who's just like, I'm feeling blah. Like, I don't know if I'm happy. I don't know if I'm sad. What word of encouragement would you say, hey, let me just give you this one nugget to think about for a little bit?
Well, I mean, letting people know that we are all in this. They're not alone in what they're experiencing. Not that we fully understand their own experience with it, because everyone's experiencing it differently, yet we're all experiencing it. And just letting them know that this is going to pass. We've gotten through a lot of things before, give them some of our hope and faith. And, just say, if they need anything, let me know. I'm here for you, whatever you can do just to be there for people.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Christina. And again, I'm talking to Christina McGraw, and she's a friend and an incredible counselor. So you can look her up on the web, and I'll also put a link somewhere on my page so you know how to find her if you want to have more of a conversation. So again, thank you, Christina. I appreciate your time. And
thanks for all you do too.
You bet.
All right. Take good care.